All right, let's just jump right in with a number 343 million. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's how many people, right now, are facing acute hunger. It's a staggering, almost unimaginable figure, and it really sets the stage for one of the most urgent challenges of our time.
And if you drill down into that crisis, it gets even more intense. 1.9 million. These are the people experiencing what's called catastrophic hunger. They are, quite literally, on the brink of famine. This isn't some abstract statistic. It's a profound human crisis happening as we speak.
So when you hear numbers that big, it is so easy to feel completely powerless, right? But what if a piece of the solution wasn't some huge global initiative, but something hyperlocal? In this explainer, we're asking a really powerful question. Can the humble community farm actually change the future of our food supply?
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on this global hunger crisis. Then, we'll break down what a community-supported farm actually is. After that, we're going to look at the good and the bad, the promise versus the pitfalls. And we'll wrap up by looking at where this is all headed. Farming for the future.
First up, a world-facing hunger. Because to even think about a solution, you've got to understand the problem. And trust me, the forces driving this crisis are complex.
The thing to get is that there's no single villain here. It's more like a perfect storm. You've got climate shocks, crazy droughts, massive floods wiping out crops. At the very same time, conflicts are disrupting supply chains and forcing people from their homes. Then you layer on economic instability, the rising cost of absolute essentials like fertilizer, and the slow degradation of the very land we need to grow food. You can see how all these things just pile on top of each other to create this devastating crisis.
Okay, so with those huge global challenges as our backdrop, let's pivot. Let's talk about the community-supported farm. We're going to zoom all the way in from the global to the hyperlocal and see if a totally different way of thinking can offer some answers.
So, what in the world is community-supported agriculture, or a CSA? Honestly, it's a beautifully simple idea. Instead of just buying your veggies at a giant grocery store, you become a partner, a member of a specific farm. You pay upfront for a share of the harvest to come, which means you're creating a direct partnership with the farmer.
So how does this whole partnership actually work? Well, it's this really neat, predictable cycle. It all starts when a member pays for their share upfront for the whole season. That payment gives the farmer critical working capital for things like seeds and equipment before the season even starts. Then the farmer does what they do best. They grow the food. Finally, you, the member, get a regular box, usually weekly, of whatever is fresh and in season. It creates this amazing transparent loop between the person growing the food and the person eating it.
And this model, it just completely flips the script on how we usually get our food. I mean, think about risk. In the normal system, one bad hailstorm can literally ruin a farmer. In a CSA, that risk is shared across the whole community. And the connection? It goes from being this distant, anonymous transaction to a real relationship with your farmer. And that long, complicated global supply chain, poof, it's replaced by one that's short, sweet, and local.
But of course, no model is a silver bullet. And that brings us to our third section, promise versus pitfalls. We've got to be realistic and look at both the incredible potential of CSAs and the real-world hurdles they run into. When you really break it down, you see this clear set of trade-offs. For farmers, getting a stable, predictable income is a huge deal in such a volatile industry. And for us, the consumers, we get unbelievably fresh food and a real connection to where it came from. But yeah, there are real challenges too. That upfront cost can be a big barrier for some families. And for the farmer, man, juggling the logistics of growing dozens of different crops and getting them to everyone on time, it can get incredibly complicated.
And here's a detail that might sound kind of funny, but it points to a really practical issue. You know one of the biggest reasons people drop out of a CSA? Getting a box full of kohlrabi or, rutabaga when they were really hoping for tomatoes and cucumbers? That lack of choice, that surprise element, it can be a genuine hurdle for people.
So, where does that leave us? Let's look ahead in our final section, farming for the future. How is this kind of old school model adapting to the modern world and, the massive challenges that are coming our way? First, let's just quickly reset the stakes here. To feed a projected global population of over 9 billion people, we're going to need to produce 70% more food by 2050. I mean, the pressure on our food systems is only going to get more and more intense. Now, you might think of local farming as pretty low-tech, right?
But that's where the whole story is changing. Technology is now empowering these small farms in absolutely incredible ways. Imagine online platforms that just seamlessly manage all the members and payments, or AI that helps a farmer predict the perfect data plant and the potential yield. Think about tiny sensors in the soil giving real-time data on exactly how much water the crops need, or drones that can spot a pest problem before it gets out of hand. Look, this isn't about replacing the farmer. It's about giving them superpowers. It's making local food smarter and more scalable than ever.
And this brings us full circle, back to that core idea. The very things that make a CSA, growing a wide diversity of crops instead of just one, sharing the risk of a tough season, focusing on practices that keep the soil healthy, those are the exact same things that build resilience in the face of climate change. The model has this sort of built-in toughness for a future that's going to be a lot more unpredictable. Now let's be real. Community farms alone are not going to replace our entire global food system. But as we've seen, they offer this powerful, resilient, and deeply human alternative. And it leaves us with this really fascinating possibility to think about. Maybe the future of food isn't some binary choice between big and small, or local and global. Maybe, just maybe, it's about finding the perfect blend of both. Hyperlocal farms powered by global technology. Something to chew on, for sure.